This morning. How's the hangovers? Yeah? Okay. How to contribute to Dancer2. Let's get started. For those who haven't met me, and apologies for my accent up front. Can't help it, even though you speak proper English. I'll introduce myself. Some of you may have interacted with me on IRC. My nickname is veryrusty. It's also my Twitter handle, my GitHub handle, and all those sorts of things. I work for ContributeTo, a smallish IT firm in Melbourne, Australia. We do lots of mental health related work for the government. And I'm a core team member for the Dancer group. We had our round panel discussion last night. If you want to contribute to Dancer2, the thing you need is time. You need the tools. There is so much that we can do. The hard part is finding the time. I get almost no time at work to work on the core. I've got to find that time outside work, which often means doing it at 10 o'clock at night. But it's therapy. So finding the tools is always the hard part. Also for the panel last night, Dancer is more about the community than it is really about the core. It's more about the community than it is about the lines of code. If you want to get involved, join the IRC channel. I would love to see some IRC traffic when I'm at work. I'm 9 hours ahead of this current time zone. So my usual IRC logs are somebody logged off, somebody logged off, somebody logged off, somebody logged off. Get involved with the mailing list. If you've got questions, ask. I used to be an academic, used to teach mathematics before I went into IT. The only stupid questions are the ones that you don't ask. If you've got something you're not sure of, jump on the mailing list and ask. Jump on IRC and ask. There is a Perl Dancer Twitter handle. Somebody's going to try and remember the password. That was a subtle thing. You can always +1 the project on CPAN, start over on Github. I've been through all these. If you've done something awesome in Dancer, please contribute it to the dance floor on the website. If I'm lucky, this actually works. If you have a nice flashy website, I think there's only 3 projects at the moment using Dancer2. Have to look at why the image is missing. And as I mentioned yesterday, we have a standard of conduct document or policy. It tries to be inclusive of everybody in the community, but no, don't get abusive. Just respect it, please. Okay, the reason we started a few minutes late is we were trying to update this slide in a hurry. I did a grep through all the commits in Dancer2 and I came up with 95 non-core contributors to the Dancer core, or the Dancer2 core. And we had to add another 13 that have actually contributed to Dancer2 but actually haven't committed a line of code. They're just as important and we needed to get them onto this slide. There's 108 of you. Some of you are here, and a big thank you to all of you. Hopefully that's readable from the back because it wouldn't fit in normal font. And my usual catchphrase is, thank you to all of you. The core team is really standing on the shoulders of giants. It's all the other contributors that we actually get to stand on and take advantage of. Okay, a little bit about the ecosystem. The code is in Git. This was a deliberately chosen t-shirt for the day. We use GitHub as our repository. We use their issue system. We use their pull requests for code review. We use Travis CI for continuous testing. And we'll go through all of these. The speed for the next few slides is up to you. How many of you are familiar with Git? Most of you? Cool, we'll skip through the really basic stuff. So if you've never used GitHub, find the Dancer2 project, github.com/builddancer/dancer2, click the fork button, and then my laser pointer. And then you can clone it into your own local working copy. Git itself has 3 basic trees or states: your directory, your index, or stage, or repo, your add and commit. So you hack away, add your file. I was very disappointed that nobody made any Back to the Future jokes yesterday. So we can add the DeLorean at 88 miles an hour, or you can undo that if you want to. From the stage, you can commit that into the history of the project. I use git commit command a lot because my typing sucks. So it just allows you to edit the commit message of the last commit. Every commit gets a SHA and hash of the changes. That's how you can refer to things back in time. And head in capitals always refers to the most recent commit in your current branch. You can look at what's changed between those working trees, git status. I prefer the terse option. Can you actually read that from down the back? So git status -- short -- branch gives you a much shorter. Yeah, my Dancer2 folder has an untracked Docker file. Commit messages will slow down a bit now. XKCD, what else can you say? I have some non-technical people committing things that happens to be the SVN, not Git at work. Their commit messages look a lot like this. Made changes. It makes it really hard when you get that call at 10 o'clock at night saying, it's not working. What did you change? Look in commit history and it's like, I don't know. Okay. Good commit messages are really, really important. Not just for the Dancer project, but if you're working with Git, good commit messages are awesome. Don't read some of Mickey's. Mickey's gone, unfortunately. Some of Mickey's commit messages when we were removing the context object were actually more like commit essays. But they made it really, really easy to go through and do the review.
So that's because they forced me to.
Yeah. I had to do the code, well, I didn't have to. I volunteered to do the code review. Reading through the commit messages made it really, really easy. So when doing structuring your commit messages, a short 1 line, hopefully less than 50 characters summary. A lot of these rules are made to be broken. Sometimes if your commit message is just 1 line, having a longer is not a big deal. And followed by a blank line and then a longer description. That 1 line summary is really, really important. Also helps if you can logically separate your changesets, logically separate your commits into logical chunks. I don't use git add-i very often. It's an interactive add. It gives you a list of all the files that have changed and you can add them interactively to the stash before you commit them. I do use the partial file staging or patching a lot. How many of you can actually say, yeah, working away on something and say, yeah, that's a logical chunk, let's commit it. I have a habit of working. Okay, it all works now. Shit, now I've got to commit it. But I've made 2 or 3 logical steps in this change. Git add-p shows you the blocks that have changed in your code, and you can say, yes, I want to stage this hunk, but not this hunk, and commit that with its own message. And then go back and do it again until you've got all your changes done. I'm not going to try and demo it live. Git add-p, if that's the only thing you take it as hook, go and use it, it's awesome. Unlike the Git guide that we have in the Dancer repo, which says fork the project and work in master, please do not work in master. Although it's yet another rule to be broken. You can have the image later if anybody wants it. We try and be inclusive with the Dancer, with those contributing to Dancer. If you fork and commit to master, we don't care. We will take your contribution. We will handle the putting it into a branch and reviewing it and merging it. Branching in Git is really easy. Git checkout -b, your awesome idea. You can switch between branches. And you can look at the help git branch dash help if you want all the rest. Of course, if you did forget that git branch, you can always undo things. If you're committed to master or committed to some branch and you wanted to say, shit, I want this somewhere else, can't quite swear the same way Sawyer does, you can always just branch from where you are, rewind the history in the other branch, and then check it out, and you get a branch that's nicely forked off from the right side. And how many of them know you can undo almost anything in Git? There is an awesome talk that was circulating in the last 12 or 18 months, literally called How to Undo Almost Anything in Git. It's on YouTube, it's worth going to find. Don't believe Git commit histories, they lie. It's not how it happened, it's just how it appears. Your commit history, so Git log gives you your commit history. This was taken just after Sawyer released the latest Dancer release. So the last commit was the commit message for the 0.163 release. There are lots of options to Git log. I never just use Git log. Git log -- one line literally just gives you those one-line summaries from the commits. I find it far easier to read, and particularly when you've picked up a project, I'll be away for 3 weeks from work. It's like, what's happened in the last 3 weeks on my project? Reading the one-line summaries is typically enough to figure out what went on. I have to do fortnightly timesheets. What did I do in the last fortnight? I can just ask Git, what did I commit in the last fortnight? So what did I do in the last 2 weeks? Done. Notice here that that is actually on the committer. Git does track the difference between who committed something and who authored something. So if you wrote a commit and asked it to be reviewed, say through a pull request, Git tracks whether you were the author or who actually merged that into the appropriate code. So you can look at authors or committers. Commit graph. How many of you use some sort of graphical tool for looking at anything? If there's git tk and gitx, and I just prefer the command line. It's just as easy. So git log -- all -- graph -- one line -- decorate, and you get an ASCII view of all your git commits. You get the branches there on the left. Hopefully they make sense. I'm not quite sure what happened over here.
I fucked up. It was a non-rebase.
Yeah. You'll see a lot of that, what's the right word? Parallelogram do type structure in the Dancer repo. We try and do all the working branches and merge, rebase the branch to master and then merge. I used to be a mathematician. The usual joke was if you ask a mathematician if you ask 10 mathematicians how to do something, you'll get 11 different answers. When it comes to dealing with how should you work with a project in Git, if you ask 10, you'll probably get 12 different answers. There's all these different branching schemes and whatever, do whatever works. We use master as that's our current source, and do it from there. Try and keep it easy. I hate typing git -- log -- one line -- whatever. Git aliases rule. You can just edit the .git config in your home directory if you want to, or you can do it with git config global aliases. They make it much easier. So instead of the status git, status short, whatever it was, I just aliased to git st. Much easier to work with. You all probably have your own set of aliases that you like working with. And git his is much easier to type when you want to look at that tree. If you go and Google around, there are some pretty awesome git aliases floating around. And do be prepared to steal. Lots of people put their doc files on GitHub. We talked about rebase, and Hoverboard had to have another Back to the Future joke. So you can check out something, hack away on it, and totally forget about it. And then as time passes on, whatever you wanted to merge that into goes on to. At some stage, they've got to be brought back together, and rebase is one way to change where that branch started from. So you've got master going along branch, and you can change that branch point up to here. So it basically replaced the commit from somewhere else in history. What I do use a lot is interactive rebase. Who's actually used interactive rebasing? And the rest of you need to go and look at it. Interactive rebasing is awesome. It allows you to, as it said, reword your commits. So if you realise 2 commits ago you made a typo, you go fix it. You can reorder your commits. Do you want your tests before you fixed it or after? You can go swap them around. You can squash 2 commits together. It's like, I made a typo, I don't want people to know that, I can squash them together. The people that look like they're really good programmers just really know how to use interactive rebasing. And you can split commit apart. That takes a little bit more work, but it's doable. So it's git rebase-i and the SHA-1 hash that you want to start from, and it pops you up a list of the commits right here.
It's also useful if you just want to rebase 3 commits to say head till 3.
Yeah. You can, yeah, so head till 3. Head's always a reference to the current commit in the branch you're working on, and you can go backwards. You can count backwards from there. So head till 3. There's also a few other bits and pieces. When you git add something, there's a -- fix up on option for more recent Git versions. So if you realise something you wanted to put in white spaces instead of tabs, spaces instead of tabs, you can say git add -- fix up and the SHA-1, and it'll actually put fix up and the previous commit message. And there's an auto squash option for interactive rebasing that just squashes them all together for you. So, do go have a look at the docs, or go Google it, they're often easier to read. Remotes, so if you fork your project in GitHub and clone it from there, you always end up with one remote called origin. So you can push your branch to whatever you want to. Bug fixing that appears seemed appropriate at the time. You can track other remotes as well. How many of you actually track multiple remotes in your code? 1, 2 or 3 of us. Yeah. It can be useful. Let's get the rest of that. That's about all the Git stuff done really, really quickly. We use Zilla for managing the distribution of Dancer2, or the creation of the distribution for Dancer2. How many of you are actually familiar with using Zilla? How many of you have actually used it in anger and got really confused by it? Yeah, okay. No, it does make something simpler. We have it. Thankfully, the setup is there in the repo. Install Zilla on your machine, so cpan Zilla. You can install the dependencies. There's also a -- missing option as well, so you can just install the dependencies that aren't on your machine. And then you can do Zilla build, which will actually build a tarball distribution, as if you were going to ship it to cpan if you wanted to. Although only 2 people, I think, in the room have permissions to do so. And you can run the tests. If you do end up with these sort of problems, yell on IRC or on a mailing list or raise an issue or running tests. Dancer actually has a reasonable test suite. This is from the current release. So we have, depending on how you want to measure, but 84% code coverage. You've got 92% statement coverage. Running the test locally, you've got all the standard Perl tools. Prove, Diesel test. Diesel test runs what's in the test suite, so it's in the T directory. If you run Diesel test all, there's a set of tests that we use for release testing. Things like we want spaces instead of tabs in our code, so it goes in the tests for that. And remotely, of course, we use Travis CI, which we're going to mention in a minute. And of course, cpan testers is awesome. The other subtle thing that they're looking for. So if you're at speed, please. How many of you are familiar with Travis CI? I forgot to put a link. It's free for use for any open source project. It links to GitHub very, very well. So once you commit something to GitHub, so in Dancer's case, if anybody commits to the Dancer repo or creates a pull request, it takes that Git branch or whatever's there and runs the test suite against it and reports whether it passed or failed. It not only just does it run it, it runs it against Perl 5, 10, 520. So we get all 5, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. 522 supports on its way. We also support Perl 5.8 for 5.8n. We actually don't define what version of n is. Given our Unicode support, n being less than 8 is going to be messy. One of the issues or features that you can see with Travis CI, it actually pulls in all the dependencies for every build. So it pulls in everything that we need for running Dancer2. So if one of the upstream dependencies is broken, Travis will report that our build is broken too. It may not be your commit that actually broke it, it could be something upstream. It's just something you need to be aware of if you get an email saying you broke the build. It actually does happen. Somebody does break the build. I've done it on numerous occasions. We all make mistakes, and we don't play the blame game. I've deliberately not included Git blame in the Git list. I don't like playing the blame game. I do run Git blame to make sure it wasn't me. How many of you are familiar with using Git bisect? 2 or 3 of you? Bisect is really, it's a bisection method. You can define a start point and an end point in Git's history for running a command to work out whether something's successful or not. So Git bisect starts the process. In fact, before you do that, you actually need to find the 2 commits where one's good and one's bad. In this case, the good one was the 0.162 release of Dancer. The bad one was the current head when I ran this, which was about weekend before last. And then it's just git bisect run and the command you want to define success or failure. In this case, it was a specific test case that was failing, the DSL delay test. And it goes and runs, ... and you stop the process with bisect stop. The bit in the middle. This is the commit that broke the build. Sorry, Slayer. Now this happens. It might not have been you or it might have been you. We don't play the blame game, I don't care. It's probably me. So if it does happen, what do? Well, tell someone about it, please. Go and raise an issue in GitHub. Say, I can see what's wrong here. I can fix this. Go fix it, create a pull request. We'll say thank you. And you can do both. So if you're creating issues in GitHub, we occasionally, hopefully once a week or thereabouts, we try and go through and triage the current issues that are there. And we tag them with certain labels. We try and keep the labeling easy. Hopefully it makes sense. We've been through several iterations of how to label things. And I think our current arrangement is simple enough for our current needs. We try and label them with what they are. Is it a bug? Does it involve documentation? Is it testing? Is it sensitive? So the sensitive one is it something that if we change, it's going to be lots and lots of really nice people? We also tag them with beginner suitable, if that makes sense. We think this is something that somebody who may be new to Dancer2 or new to making pull requests, new to an open source project, can pick up and work with in a short amount of time and come up with a really nice solution. And up for grabs saying is, we know this is a problem, we don't have the tools to fix it. Does somebody want to say, yeah, I'll go look after that? Go grab it. Creating a pull request, you've hacked away, you've pushed your branch to origin. It's a matter of going to GitHub's interface, clicking the angle brackets, it's supposed to be buttons, this isn't what it could be slide. Comparing your pull request. By default, GitHub will give you, I think it's the last commit message in your branch as the default description. Sometimes that's totally adequate, sometimes it's not, so go and, again, make a reasonable description of what this pull request is trying to do. We try and respond within a couple of days. That may be 7 or so. And the response just might mean, thanks, we'll look at it when we get a chance. There was a commit there was a pull request about 5 o'clock last night, and we're all here. Hopefully this afternoon I'll get a chance to look at it. Okay, that's about it. Back to the core team. The core team are actually here to help you, or you're here to help us. We're here to help you. We need your contributions. The core team doesn't have the tools to do everything. So if you've got questions, if you've got ideas, if you want advice, all you have to do is ask. We're here. If you've got issues with coding style, with writing tests, that's fine. A contribution is better than no contribution. If we need to go and clean it up, that's fine, we can do that. If you're having trouble with some of the Git tooling, if you're not comfortable using Git rebase, if you branched from 2 releases of Dancer ago, we can look after that. So we can look after branching, rebasing. We will cherry pick commits if we need to. We will reword commits if needed. And that's it. I think I am done in a short time. Thank you.